Well, let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everybody. My name is Joe Mariano. I am serving as president and CEO of the Direct Selling Association, and it is great to welcome all of you to this webinar that we're doing today on distributor dynamics driving performance. What could be more important or timely right now in a time when we have challenges with regard to recruitment and keeping our sales force not only involved, but motivated and performing the way we need to do that. You know, one of the great things about the association over the years is seeing how many folks come and participate in our dialogues and our discussions among each other. We don't learn really from DSA staff, people like me. We learn from each other. And that's why it's so wonderful to be able to be joined today by our panelists who will be introduced in a moment. I'm tempted to introduce everybody, but I won't. Instead, I'll just introduce our host and moderator, Rich Schupkegel from Rallyware. Rich, hi, how are you?
I am great, Joe. Thank you very, very much for allowing me to participate in this afternoon.
You know, I have to just say this, Rich. You know, there are a few people that I've met over the years that have been real consistent contributors, and I don't even know how many years we've known each other, decades, I'm sure.
Decades.
In all that time, no matter which iteration you've been with, when you were with companies, and now, of course, as a significant person here at Rallyware, you have been a total partner and somebody who's willing to commit themselves to the furtherance of direct selling. And certainly you and Rallyware are doing that today. And on a continuing basis. So I really appreciate your sponsorship and involvement and moderation of this program today. Well, I don't have anything to say about distributor dynamics. We have a great panel that I'll let Rich introduce, who will be the real folks who can educate you all. But I'll say thank you again to everybody and enjoy the next few minutes.
Rich? Joe, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I greatly appreciate the people we have with us today. I think you're going to be very, very impressed, not only with what they bring to you today from their current companies. We've got Angela Chrysler from ACN. We've got Genevieve Scory from Plexus, and we have Curtis Call from Xyngular. But if you go and look these three up on LinkedIn or anywhere where you can see their history, they have decades, I'm not going to say age, decades of experience in the business with multiple companies. And we've even got Curtis and Genevieve have been out in the field, which to me is a very scary place to be in direct selling. So, but the other thing about this group, because we are talking about driving that distributor behavior, right? And we were joking before this, how that's a volunteer workforce. If they get up in the morning and they don't feel like working in their business, they don't have to. There's no way you can leverage that. So Angela's got a title of Chief Development Officer, Genevieve, Chief Field Development Officer, and Curtis is the Chief Sales Officer. So every one of these three is responsible for trying to motivate, engage, incentivize, and drive the behavior of that volunteer workforce out there. So we're going to start from the very beginning when they come walking through the door. Angela, we'll start with you. The other thing our audience should know is we even represent different product lines that we bring to market, right? So Angela's with ACN and they are a services company. And we've got Genevieve and Curtis who bring product, you know, consumer packaged goods to the marketplace that way. So I think that's going to also be able to fill in those different perspectives that we'll have on driving that behavior. But let's go ahead and think about when you get them in the door to start with. So Angela, you've got IBOs coming in the door. What to you makes a successful IBO?
Well, there's obviously, Rich, welcome everyone. Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. There's obviously a lot of things that you could add to what makes them successful. But one of the things, a key component we're looking at, which won't be too different from what Curtis and Genevieve look for, is the customer acquisition side. Now, in our case, they're acquiring a customer on one of our services. In the case of my product friends, it's probably, you know, a little different, but the idea is the same. So first of all, we just want to see, you know, are they actually out there talking to someone, getting someone started, with utilizing one of our many services. We have what we call a suite of services. And in that suite of services, there's a variety of choices, and each person is going to be different, but we're tracking that very closely to see which service are they using, how quickly are they getting someone to utilize that, how quickly are they sharing that opportunity and that option with them. And so that would be that first driver of success. Of course, we continue with looking at the recognition levels, right? Are they moving? All of our wonderful companies have ways that we recognize them on their journey, and are they moving from one to the next are they moving along that, and then are we supporting them during that journey? So that would be some of the key components to begin with.
So that's interesting, because what I heard you say is you are looking at, so you've got visibility to, if I sign up for a cellular service or a TV service or energy, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And then that's what that indicator is on whether you see me engaging that business right at the beginning.
Absolutely. ACN has 4 co-founders who all started this business in the field. They were how they built the business. And so the co-founders are all about data, because they were in the field. And I know, Curtis and Genevieve themselves were in the field, so they know about tracking their own business, right? So it really does give you a perspective in a company if you understand that part of the business. Our co-founders talk regularly about how important it is to track your business. And part of the tracking is knowing what customers are signing up on, and why they're maybe signing up on that. Is it they have a need, right? Is it identity theft because they didn't have any identity theft, etc. So we're absolutely tracking that, looking at that, and trying to follow all the numbers.
Okay, Genevieve, I'm going to go to you next. So what at Plexus, if I'm a brand new ambassador coming through the door, what are you looking at to see if you're predicting success for me?
Yeah, I think Angela made some very strong points. I would say all of those things. And I would just say we take all of those things and we kind of categorize them into groups of behavior. So what we're looking for is action, which is basically what Angela said. We're looking for action in terms of engagement with our products. What products are they currently using? Is it one? Is it a bunch? I mean, do they really understand our offerings? The second thing we're looking for is, are they engaging with their communities in terms of sharing their experience? So I know we all know this. It's easier to share if you've had a great product experience and you can speak to that experience to your warm or even cold markets. And then the one thing also we look for, in addition to like, hey, what are their wins along the way in terms of rank advancement, is participation in events. So are they participating and showing up for training? Are they participating and showing up virtually? Do they log into our app? Did they attend a conference? We have regional events. Are they going to those things? And I would say, in addition to everything that Angela said, we just kind of bucket them into those categories on their journey. And the more we can say yes in each of those categories, the more we can predict their success. And of course, measuring those, as Angela said. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Rich.
No, I was going to say, so you bucket them. So I'm still looking at that brand new ambassador, and those are key metrics that you track so that you're predicting or my success or my lack thereof, right? So, yeah. All right. So Curtis, going over to you, because I know you just had an event, I think last week, right? So that sounds like one of the indicators that I'm hearing from Genevieve. What are those things that you are looking at Xyngular, if I can ask?
I think Angela and Genevieve did a great job highlighting how we as companies get to track engagement. A lot of times we get to track outcomes, right? We get to track, did they advance rank? Did they buy product? Did they go to the event? And there's this whole set of things that we want them to do in terms of getting into the right actions and behaviors when they first come on board. And so it's taught, it's trained, you got to, like the old school, make a name list. I don't even teach make a name list anymore. It's like open up your contacts on your phone and start going through. Your name list is made, right? But we want to get them into the right activities that lead to the results. And like I said, it's not super easy for us to track that because there's not great mechanisms for them to go in daily and to be accountable to say, I reached out to X number of people, or I attended this webinar, or I did this thing. And so what I rely on often is our leaders in the field. Our leaders know who's come into their teams and is immediately getting into the right behaviors. It's not uncommon for me to get a text from a leader that says, hey, I've got a new girl, she's on fire, can you get on a 3-way call with me and inspire her, right? And they know the people that are doing the right behaviors at the right cadence. And almost certain that when I get on those Zooms, I'm talking to someone who's going to make it in our business, or someone who's going to at least accomplish something great early on. And then I sit back and I watch, they get the first rank, the second rank, they earn that trip, the incentive that we put out for everybody, they get themselves to the event. And so I think it's sometimes knowing and having a pulse on your field. They will tell you who their new runners are. They will tell you the people who are getting into the right activities. And then we as a company can focus our effort and attention on them. We have a great field development team that will reach out and work with those people to continue to nourish them along. But the things we track are the same things that Angela and Genevieve are tracking, because those are the outcomes that we can actually measure because they get recorded in our system.
So let me tell you, a great platform I know that could be giving you that data instead of having to call those leaders. Oh, just kidding about that commercial announcement. Let me flip this question backwards on you. Do any of you take a look at who might not be successful, not be hitting certain indicators that you're looking for, and adjust or iterate accordingly? Genevieve, I see you shaking your head. Why don't you go ahead and comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. In addition to strengthening the things that work well, you absolutely need to be able to identify the things that don't appeal to certain audiences. So we all know that there are the people that come in and they run, and that's everybody's dream. Gotta love the runners. They create energy, enthusiasm, et cetera, et cetera. But then there's another group of people that they're going to take more time, and they're super loyal, and they produce results over time. They're motivated by different things. They have different internal compasses and timelines. And so we want to be super dialed into that group as well. So things like a fast start program definitely appeals to a runner. But we do look at people that maybe engaged in that first bucket, big product users, super enthusiastic. We think they should be sharing, but they're not. And then we want to know, like, what else do you feel like you need? And what's the time frame from your perspective, and creating programs, trainings, and incentives and promotions that appeal to those people, because sometimes they'll get demotivated because they feel like, oh, I missed out on the fast start. But if you actually tracked them a year or two later, they're producing the same level of results. And I think if you track some of those people, even 5 years later, you find that those folks are a little stickier sometimes than the people that came out of the gate. So we look for those folks as well. And to be able, and we have two types of programs. We have that fast start program, and then we have kind of a duplication consistency sort of program that runs every month, that until you get to a particular level in our comp plan, you can earn this as an incentive trip. Come to the home office. We treat you really, well. And we know that people that come to that event have something like an 87% likelihood of advancing to the top ranks in our company. So I do think that it is important to look at the folks that should be performing, aren't performing, and just aren't doing it at a faster pace. So that's how we do it.
So two of the concepts I heard you talk about, if I'm not a runner, right, I might identify being a part of a community, being a part of this company that I like. And then I might really like the product, right? So those are two hooks that you might have to keep me around for that thing that we all identify as so important, that retention. Angela, I've got a question for you. As I listen to Genevieve say that, if I'm buying a service from ACN do I identify with a product in the same way that Curtis and Genevieve's company would, do you think?
I think it's a little different in the service industry because you may not be directly connected to identity theft, to your energy provider. Now we do have some products. We have a health sharing product with Impact
Oh,
Health
that's right.
Sharing that is more mission based. It is
Yeah.
more, which is what product companies get a lot of, right? They have a sales field that is mission based on health and wellness, maybe, right? And so they're driven by that part of their life for those products. Our products are more necessities. We call them essential services. So yes, you need them, you want them, and we're grateful we have them for them, but they're not as mission based. Now, our health sharing is because it's very personal. It's an alternative to health insurance. And so that has been really great for our IBOs because they really have gotten behind it, and they want to share that more often than they want to share that they just changed their energy service or their identity theft or even their cell phone service. So that's been really interesting for us to watch and track. And one of the things that I think we do, and I think we can always improve upon this, but is we also are tracking, and this has been brought up also a little bit, is about events. And the co-founders built the business about event to event. So they've always believed that looking at those numbers, that tells you something, and they try to have an event every 90 days. So that's been interesting to try to work through this new hybrid Zoom and in person and see how that fits into the model and the data tracking. But services definitely have a different feel and sometimes a different IBO. From my experience, I've been in the industry now 24 years. When I've talked to my friends who have product-based companies or co-founders, they definitely have a different type of sales field than we do in a lot of ways.
I would agree with that. That's an interesting thought I never would have considered until Genevieve brought up that concept. So, Curtis, we're not talking about those ideal people who come in the business, your leaders call you so you can have a call with them. We're talking about those people now who come into the business and we want to try to get them to remain in the business, even though I'm maybe not an overachiever. How do you guys approach that over at Xyngular?
I think it's an interesting question, because we just had John Addison. Everybody, I think, knows John Addison, former CEO of Primerica, as a keynote speaker at our event. And one of the things he said is sprinters are a dime a dozen. Like, people come in and go fast all the time. He goes, but what you're really looking for to build your business is the marathoner, the person who's going to stick it out long term. And maybe they come at a slower pace and they don't build the business the same way as the sprinter. But I think we've all seen a lot of times sprinters that came in, did amazing, and then they're gone because they burn out, because maintaining a sprint is hard. So what we try to do is, like, we try to create sticky, as we call it, experiences for them, things that make them stick. And so your early recognition has to be something that makes them say, hey, I feel valued here. The way that we interact with them from product offerings is something that we kind of reinforce their story as a reason to stay on the product and continue to share with people. I think helping people buy into your mission, what your company is all about, like your whole purpose for being, and saying that you get to be a part of this great mission, and the things you do every day matter in the lives of other people, creates some stickiness as well. But I think the biggest things we do are more or less recognition and incentive based. We have some great incentives early on. We have what we call our passport program, which is a travel incentive that allows people early in their journey with us to win and earn a trip for two to come out and see us in Utah, visit the headquarters, spend a couple of days in our beautiful mountains. And so getting that engagement early on, I think, really matters. And not just engagement in the sense, oh, they came to the big event and got lost in the sea of people, but came in with a small group of people to visit us, to feel important, to let us get our arms around them, give them a hug, thank them for their work, and then celebrate them for a couple of days. Those have been really important factors in developing our business, to ensure that people say, hey, this is somewhere where I feel like I belong, and I want to be a part of this, and I'm willing to continue to do the work going forward to allow me to stay in this company, in this community of people. So like I said, like it's finding those things that are sticky, that make them feel like, hey, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing.
It is so important. I just am amazed when the people in your field get to meet you from the home office and what effect that has on them. And, you know, I'm going to go knock down walls because I got to meet Angela, or Genevieve sat down and had coffee with me, or something like that. Is exactly right. But I will also tell you, you know, that passport that you were referring to, I've known people in direct selling companies who are in it for nothing more than to be able to take those trips, right? We're going to take you to Barcelona. We're going to take you to London. We're going to take you. It is amazing.
You know,
So,
Rich, it's interesting
yeah.
because one of the things we've done is we've built that first trip to be a trip for two. And the idea is it's spouse, significant other. You know, occasionally somebody might bring a friend if they don't have one of those other. But we call it the buy-in trip, right? They further their own buy-in to the company because they've seen the physical office, they've met the staff that serves them every day, and they realize this is real and legitimate. And there's been times where we see the spouse come in, arms folded, kind of grumpy face, questioning everything. And by the end of the trip, they're like hugging us, high-fiving us. Thank you for what you're doing for my wife or for my husband. You know, it's like they get a little bit of that buy-in too. Now they become a supportive partner in the business. And we've seen a lot of times where one of the two worked hard to get the trip, and leaving the trip, they're working the business together. And so we've really viewed that first one as kind of critical in the stickiness and in that sense of buy-in for the long term.
I've seen those spouses come to the home office and go, oh, my spouse works for a bigger company than I, you know, it's that kind of thing. Because all they see is at home. I come home from a show or a party, or I come home from making a sale, and it's just me. It's amazing. So right now, we've only been focused on that beginner, right? As they come through the door, that onboarding, that new ambassador, the new IBO, that kind of thing. What are those other different segments that you target across your sales force that are important to your company and that business? So Curtis, I might start with you on that one. You know, we're not talking about the first 30, 60, 90 days. What are those other milestones or ranks or whatever you might call it that you focus on almost with as much intensity as that new person coming through the door?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we believe that the new person really is the core element of our business, right? Like the businesses are built sort of bottom up. The more new people we can help be successful, the better, you know, the company does and everyone does. But we put the same intensity to our top leaders, regular interactions. We do a lot of collaboration, discussion with them about where we're going as a company. We believe in the old mantra, the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. And so we know that if we have them engaged and we have them seeing the vision for where we're going, that flows all the way through their team, right? And it's not to say that we do more, bigger, better, whatever perk rewards for them, but the level at which we engage with them to help drive the business forward is pretty high. But we also we view you know, as we think about, you know, those different groups, our mid-tier leaders, we do things that are special just for them, that leaders are excluded from as well, because they feel like, you know, if the leader gets to do everything, then the leader kind of dominates the space. But we create these experiences that are tailored just for the middle part of our plan as well. And then, of course, customer focus is a big part for us. Like the way that we communicate to and interact with our customer base, you know, we're about, I'd say 85% customer, 15% partner in our business. And so that's a really critical part of what we do in terms of communication, incentives for them, you know, to continue to buy and things like that as well. But I would say our two biggest things we do are how intense we get around the new person, and then how intense we get from the leader. And then we work toward the middle with everything else.
So you got to go after that tail that wags the dog too, besides the new person coming in the door, right?
Yeah.
Angela, what about in your company? I come through the door, I automatically subscribe to this or that. What are those milestones that you look at in services? Do you try to take me from one product to two? Do you try to, what does that look like?
Yes, certainly we do. I mean, we what our co-founders teach and train on is to look at all of our services and see what is right for you and where there's value for you and for your customers. And then we do similar to what Curtis just explained. We certainly have different levels and different ranks that we do different things for. We have a Facebook Live that we do every month. That's a way to connect with people, right? That's a way that anybody who just got started or someone who's a seasoned leader can join that, feel like they're connecting with the company. We have that, I lead that, and then I have different guests on that. But then we have a vice president of sales and a vice president of leadership development, and their entire focus is connecting and mentoring, like Curtis talked about, with those upper leaders. Because again, we too believe that the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. So those two gentlemen, they focus on just connecting with those top leaders and actually doing calls with them. Our co-founders are regularly on Zooms with our leaders. We have all sorts of communication that we're sending at the different levels. We're actually getting ready to kind of even take some of that to another level. And it's simply because we were tracking the numbers and we were sending an email out to this one group at this one level. And we sent like 4 or 5 videos. And we have the best open rate of that out of all of our emails that we send every month. And ooh, that's so exciting. And then we went and we looked at each video and went, wow, they're actually not watching the videos. so they want to hear from us. They're opening it. They're really excited, but they don't have time to, read, to watch all that, right? They're part-time, and we have to remind ourselves, wait, these people only have so much time. So we're actually revamping that, shortening that, slimming it up. We're going to target more at the different levels. So as companies, we're all kind of, I think, fine tuning as we go, right? As you watch the day, something that worked 5 years ago may or may not work today. It may not even work if it worked 5 months ago. So we just have to stay on top of all those numbers for sure.
So Genevieve, you notice I kept you for last on this one with different segments, because I know you've got that group, and I call them your tiger team. I don't know what you really call them, but talk a little bit about that and what you do with that group.
Yeah, so we take, and I love the answers from both Curtis and Angela. Couldn't agree more on those points. But yeah, we actually have focused in on a group of people that are not quite at the top 1/3 of the comp plan, but we think have some real potential to be there. And we've created our, as you call them, the Tiger Group, where we focus in on what we call activity-based coaching, which is to drive them from what we would consider to be entry-level leadership to really more of mastery of leadership. So mastery of duplication of leaders. I know you all know this, but what we're looking for are to teach people how to go from being an entry-level leader. So sometimes they can do that based on luck. Sometimes they can do that based on a rock star, one particular person who came into, or two. But what we're looking for is that duplication from a width and a depth perspective, so that we can actually see that there's mastery of the behavior, not only for themselves, but they're able to teach it, and there's mastery within their leadership level as well. So we have these weekly calls with and it's more of a small, I say small, it's like 75 to 100 people, but we're working with them on targets. We let them ask each other questions. We come in with specific focused best practices in the channel, and we help them to figure out who they should be working with, what they should be spending their time doing, and where they may have some blind spots in their thinking on, my big training plan or my big support plan. I loved what you said, Angela. There are so many people, very well-meaning people, who have created some very, very intense training documents and these videos that take hours to watch and all that kind of good stuff, if anyone actually really had the time to do that. And so we're helping to bring forward conversations around how to simplify what we are seeing at the lower ranks, how much time they really have. And also, we're big fans of what's going on digitally in the digital world and how to drive that into our training and coaching. because honestly, what they're doing on Instagram and TikTok has now become the standard of here's my attention span. And it
Yes,
better
for
be
sure.
interesting, fun, better have a hook, and there better be something for me to swipe on and watch next. So we're helping them understand some of those trends as well.
You know, you referred back to Angela's comment, and that I always called it a volunteer workforce, but you are even more correct in saying it is a part-time, right? You know, and I don't know what a company thinks that independent distributor gives them the amount of time. I would think that, you know, if they're giving you 2 to 4 hours a week, that is a big amount of time in their everyday life, right? So we are trying to get them to do things, everything you talked about, in that in between moments of the day. So we talked
And
a little bit.
we call them the nooks and crannies.
Oh, there you go.
Because that's what they are. It's like everyone has these little nooks and crannies that you can maybe share this business with or learn something, which I love, that you brought that up, because it really is so true that that we're all just trying to work to help mentor them, right, in this journey.
I always called it time scraping, right? In those in-between moments of the day, what can I get done? And that's, all of you are starting, you know, to talk about that. I do want, before we get to what that new demographic looks like, that you've got to get to come through the door in the business. Let's talk about, I want to talk about two things, I guess, in sort of a twofold question. How much emphasis do you put on recruiting? Because to me, recruiting is very off-putting in this business we call direct selling or MLM marketing, you know, as opposed to customer acquisition, who then may evolve or morph into a partner, an ambassador, an IVO, that kind of thing. So, Curtis, start me off. What's recruiting focus for you guys? Is that, you know, is that a high priority? You're trying to get more bodies through the door. How do you guys approach that?
Well, I would tell you, we're always, wanting our recruiting of new partners to increase. I mentioned earlier, we're about 85% customer. At enrollment, surprisingly, we're about 92 to 94% customer at enrollment, and maybe only 6 to 8% of enrollment is a partner enrollment. But we also find that, our efforts in creating great customer experiences and also, kind of teasing in that there is opportunity associated with this, we get a significant number of upgrades. And so some of our best partners are those that started as a customer and then had a great product experience and then became a partner because they wanted to share what they experienced with other people. They learned that we have, the sharing program, the business side of it. So yeah, from a training standpoint, a coaching standpoint, we talk to the idea of getting more partners and the value of bringing a partner. I always say if I bring in a new customer, I get one new customer, but if I bring a partner, I might get them plus their 4 friends, so I get 5 customers. And there's a value there. But at the same time, our effort is really balanced because we know our field is so focused on sharing product and sharing the customer experience that we then have to come back another route to look at upgrades as a way of shoring that up. And I think as a company, you look at how your field is performing and you embrace, some of what they're doing. We throw tools behind them based on how they're doing it. But we are working currently on things that we think will help, us on the business side as well.
Genevieve, what about bringing people through the door as new ambassadors?
Yeah, I think those two things are married. So for sure, it's a pipeline, right? And what we usually tell our field is it's a pipeline, but think of it as like a pipeline highway. You can get on exit 1, you can get on, entrance ramp 1, or you can get on entrance ramp 50, which might take you closer to where you want to go, right? You can decide the speed of the lanes on the highway. Do you want to drive slow? Do you want to pass people? Do you want to be in the express lane? So I think what we have found, Rich, is, and we are trying very hard at Plexus to simplify the business and simplify sharing. So we have a training program that we do in our field for one of our key levels. It's a lower level, but we know that that's one of our sticky levels. And we did a training with them, and we found out through our training that the two biggest fears our ambassadors have, because I honestly and truly think if you can eliminate the fear of having the right conversation at the right time, the business gets what it needs. So if I'm talking to Angela, and I'm pretty sure Angela would be open to taking a look at the business, I need to know how to pursue that conversation. If I'm talking to Curtis and I'm pretty sure that the way I'm going to go with Curtis is product, then I need to know how to start that conversation as well. So what we've been focusing on is, what are those two key conversations? What we found was people are not only afraid to call someone to ask them, right? So that's actually not fear number one, believe it or not. Fear number one was, I don't know what to do if Angela said yes. So we were teaching them, here's what you say to talk to Angela or to talk to Curtis. Everybody understood what to do with Curtis. If Curtis is interested in the products, I know what to do with him. My real block was I didn't know what to do with Angela. So we had to really break down, hey, these are two key conversations that we need to teach pretty much every stage along the way, so that if you intended to recruit for business, you knew how to do it. But if you stumbled across a business builder, you also knew how to handle that conversation.
Angela, if I subscribe to a service, do I automatically become an IBO, or am I just a customer out there?
You're a customer. Yep. You do not automatically become an IBO. But I will say ACN, what has gotten them 32 years this year, they're going to celebrate, is because the co-founders have focused on the opportunity, which is not as common today. But I love that Genevieve says they're married, because they are married. And that's really what they teach, is that you talk to someone about the business, and if the answer is no, I'm not interested, no problem. Understand, that's great. Listen, I have a great suite of services. Would you do me a favor and just take a look at them? And can I share some of those services with you to see if there's one that fits for you? And they do it that way because it feels softer, right? It doesn't feel like you're selling someone. It feels like you're sharing. But I love the simplification discussion, because we've had that same discussion at ACN, that too much of what we have and what we do is complicated, when really we have to try to simplify every aspect of our business, especially in today's environment where there's so many gigs, there's so many direct sales companies, there's so many affiliate marketing, there's so much for them to look at and choose from. We need to give them a reason to want to still look at us, and then find what we're talking about easy to take that next step, whatever that next step is.
So that's very interesting. And by the way, thank you very much. I couldn't ask for a better segue with gig and affiliate and whatever to get into the conversation about what's the future of our business, right?
Okay.
But you two just made me, you didn't get me over my fear, Genevieve, of talking to somebody and trying to bring them through the door. But if I was selling a service and I got a deal on my AT&T or I got a deal on my Xfinity, that's, for me, that's less of a barrier to actually bring somebody in. So, I'm starting to see that services model might be my cup of tea instead of the other. But
well, and there are benefits to the product model, right? Because again, people are passionate about health and wellness.
yeah,
and
I lost weight.
products
I lost weight on Plexus Slim, right? That's it.
So it's
So,
easy for them to say, this is how I've achieved this in my life, and want to bring people into that. But yes.
yeah, that is
Also, I'm going to do a pitch here for the product model as well. When you have a good product experience
Yeah,
and people see the physical difference in you,
right. That's an
there's a benefit.
advantage you have.
There is an advantage there. People might not know that I'm getting a great, identity
Correct.
theft.
Identity that no one's gonna, I mean, typically, here's what we hear sometimes about services, is they're not nearly as sexy or as exciting as some of the product,
It's
Oh,
not as Instagrammable, right? It's just not.
yes, they aren't. That we do struggle in that regard because of it. So you have to be more creative about it. Yeah, you have to get to the why, because
Yes.
the why is really what is exciting.
Yeah. And I think, Rich, you said it, and I know that we all agree. There's going to be some people that they have more passion around a service sort of
Right.
model. And then there are other people that are like, no, seriously, I know 10 people that suffer from the same thing I'm,
Right.
dealing with, and I want to go down that route.
Which
But
is
they
why we can all be friends in this industry. There's plenty for everyone.
Now, talking about keeping this industry going, there's plenty for everyone. And I
There
love talking to you three because I know each and every one of you have children
Mhm.
that are the kind of demographic we're trying to get through the door, right? That, yeah, look at those heads nod. I know exactly right. I know your families. So how do we do that? What's the key to us attracting somebody? I don't want to sell my mom's Avon or my mom's Pampered Chef or what.
Simplification, that's it. I'm telling you, we've already talked about it. At direct selling companies, I've been in the industry 24 years, but we love our complicated aspects of our business. And we have a really hard time getting rid of our complicated aspects of our business. If we're all really, really honest, if we could all just simplify, we would see so many more people that would join our business.
Oh my gosh. And we have to, like, we talk about innovation a lot. I don't think we talk about it enough in terms of supporting the field.
Yeah.
So, as Angela and Curtis mentioned, our competitors now are the affiliates of Amazon. I know how that works. I pick a product, I sign up, I get a really teeny tiny percentage. But I know how that works. I know what that looks like. And by the way, doesn't require you to attend a webinar to figure out how to make that work. So I think in terms of our business model, it has to be like, I really do. I know I come from the day of like, oh, you do the getting started training, and it was like a 3 hour on a Saturday, and you would, and it's like, no,
And it's
those
40 slides.
right? And those people know that, like, we have to really, as quickly as possible,
Yeah.
move into this business. The model itself is like the products itself. They can sell themselves, and it has to be set up in such a way that I can get, we talk about nooks and crannies. We are now competing with every other social media platform and thing that's out there. But if we can learn from how people get hooked in there and stay, and like, if you ask somebody like, hey, how do you make that, cucumber salad that's all the rage on Instagram, probably everybody could say. But if you can set up your training so that it becomes that sort of experience, and people just keep going further and further, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, that was entertaining, it was valuable, I understood the message, and I could go as deep as I wanted, or it could go, come back out.
Genevieve, it's funny you brought up cucumber salads. My daughter was making one, I kid you not, just a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, why are we doing this? And she says, it's all the rage on social media, Dad.
That's
So
right. And it's a pretty
apparently
good
I don't
salad,
know what I
right?
don't know. But I just want to echo what these guys have said. Simplicity is key, right? And simplicity sometimes is very hard to obtain. There's an old quote about how simplicity is on the other side of complexity, and you got to work through that. But today's consumer is really savvy, and they can make buying decisions quickly. And so you have to present a simple approach and give them the reason to buy, right out of the gate. And then the buying process has to be simple and easy. If it's hard to get through, if it's too many steps, they're going to bail out, right? And this is what's happened as our world has gone online. And we were already online shoppers before the pandemic. The last 4 years have only accelerated and grown the number of people willing to shop in that environment. And so they need digital tools, they need great shopping, they need easy checkout and payment options. And if you have that, then the younger generation will look at that and say, that's easy for me to do. I can now share this with my friends, because they're asking themselves, can I do it? And is it worth doing it? And does it look easy enough to do? And if you solve for those things as a company, you become really attractive to sort of the younger up and coming workforce. As I look at my kids, they're doing everything like Apple Pay, click of a button, they've bought something online. I always joke that my favorite thing to do now is pay for gas at the pump with my watch. Like our world's getting to a place of ease. and simplicity. And so we have to continue to strip away all that old complexity that we love, and really make this easy to do business with us and give them compelling reasons to want to.
Including how we pay,
I
including
was
how
just
we
going to
pay
ask, so
and
does
when we pay.
that mean we start carving out that compensation model we've got with those multiple confusing levels?
It might mean we don't actually have to explain every level. I mean, that's one of the conversations going on at ACN. Do they actually on day one need to know how to go from here to here? They don't. They really don't. Okay. But we love telling them that. Right? We love giving them a 45-page document of a comp plan when really, I mean, one of our co-founders is like, they really just need to go here to here. Right. And then from here, we're going to build and we're just going to keep building. So it's something in our model we have to work on, because ACN is committed to the direct selling channel. So we're not about to flatten our compensation plan just to make it simpler, when we can actually make it simpler on how we communicate. Now, some companies are choosing to do other things with their comp plan. That's their choice, and I wish them the best of luck. But I think it's, again, I think we all agree, it's just our own communication and how we work through that.
Angela, it's like we're sitting in the same conference room. We are having those exact conversations. We are as committed to direct selling as you are at ACN. We're not changing our model, but we do have to simplify the approach. And it's the old, you don't feed a baby a steak. You give baby something that they can digest. And so it's like, what is the very minimum that the brand new person needs to know, and then start unlocking further marketing to them as they grow their business. But I do think we give them too much. We give them the whole rewards program. We give them the whole compensation plan. We give them everything, and they really just need enough to get started with. And that's the same conversation we're having, is how do we present it differently? Keep our model, make it attractive in that little bit that they get to see or that we want to show them, so that they say, I'm going after that. And then they get excited down the road when you unlock more to them.
Yep.
So all three of you, because we are getting up against time here, my closing question to you was going to be sort of, what do you see as the most significant challenges for the future, right? I really think that, everything you've said, when we started talking about your kids and who we're trying to bring through the door and how we do that, I mean, you are talking to that right now. But I would love to get a parting comment from each and every one of you on, I loved what everybody said, not abandoning that model right now, because all the horror stories going on that we're seeing in companies thinking that might be the quickest and easiest way out, right? So, Curtis, I'm going to start with you. We're going to go backwards from the way we started. What do you see as the biggest challenge? Anything in addition to what you've shared with us to this point?
I think for us, it's, continuing to be relevant in a crowded space, right? It's crowded for gig economy. It's crowded in product offering. It's crowded because, the internet has made you have access to everything that's out there. It's not just what's at my local store anymore, or what's available through my local neighbors. Everything is at my disposal. And so we have to maintain ourselves as a relevant option for income, a relevant option for the products or services that we provide. One of the things that, we say here is, if you hate change, you'll hate irrelevancy even more, right? And so that's going to require change. We have to adapt the model. We can stay true to who we are in direct sales. We can stay true to our principles and our past and our traditions, but change has to happen. And so we're focused on what are the right changes that we can bring about to maintain that relevancy and that people want to continue to be a part of what we do.
That's great comments. And in fact, I'm thinking back to Angela's early on comments about, what? We don't even know if something's going to last for 5 months, right? So Genevieve, what would you give us as your parting comments?
I would say, honestly, anybody really paying attention should be excited about the opportunities that our channel has, in terms of, we have what so many people do. We have loyal customers. We have a community. we really need to double down on those things and really appreciate how much we actually have going for us compared to traditional companies. I think that's the strength of who we are. I think the opportunity here, and I think it's super exciting, is to keep up with technology. And I'm going to say it again, keep up with technology. We have to do better, I believe, in this channel from a technology perspective. Everything Curtis said, how people shop. I don't think we pay enough attention to, and I think the opportunity is where people shop. Like when I look at where people shop, people are, and even we are dedicated beyond belief to our channel and our ambassadors. How do we help them show up in those other places where their competitors, and I don't mean in our channel, but people that would buy from traditional companies are buying? I think there's a great opportunity to have a broader perspective on really what's happening in the market from a digital, social, technological standpoint.
So you both are talking about what those consumer behaviors are out there. That's going to color our world, right? Angela, I'll ask from you to close us out.
Yes, I would say we've had a great discussion about simplicity, and that's still going to be a focus for ACN. It's very relevant, and in this TikTok world that we live in, right, which is very short segments and the reels and so forth. So we're going to continue to do that while we stay committed to really what got us here in this industry, and it is community, it is brand loyalty. So I love that you brought that up, Genevieve, right? It's that aspect is different, right? You don't have that in some of the gig opportunities. So we do have to not only double down on those, but figure out how we can share that message quickly, and then use good tools, whether that's partners like Rallyware or other great companies out there, right? Use good tools that help you along that path so you can be partnered with your independent representatives on their journey wherever they're at. So we certainly want to continue to do that and want to continue to bring them great products, great offerings, and a great opportunity, because this business has the ability to change lives, even in just the community that you're part of. I just this past week saw someone who was like, you know what, this community has made such a difference in my life. And they weren't talking about the financial, and they weren't even talking about the products. They were just talking about the people in the community. So I second that. It's a great point. So thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure being on with you.
And that is sort of full circle, because we started with community. We started with talking about the spouses all of a sudden feeling a part of this. But I'm going to go back, and we're going to end on that simplicity, because maybe the one thing we didn't speak to making simple is how I can easily get, maybe I only need $100 every other month. Maybe I only need $250. We always talk so much about how you can replace so to make it as simple as possible for me to get what I personally need out of the business. I think I can't thank the three of you enough. I could talk to you for hours, but in respect to everybody's time on this call, Joe's going to wrap it up.
Thanks again, Rich.
Yeah, Rich, you did a great job, and all of our panelists, thank you so much for such great insights. It's wonderful. Two things I took away too. I'll say it again: the simplicity. I mean, we've been preaching that for years, and I heard, I don't know, Rich, it may have been a discussion with you, but we talked about this a little bit a few months ago, and it's not just simplicity, it's segmentation of the simplicity. And I think you touched on this, Angela. I think it was you. We know some people want to come in as business builders, right? But that doesn't mean we have to tell everybody that's walking through the door, the figurative door, everything and all the complexity of our compensation plan. We don't have to do that, and we have a tendency to do that. And so I think it's not only simplicity of the plan, but it's simplicity of our communication strategy and how we sell ourselves, if you will, to the folks that we want to have selling for us. And the other thing, Angela, that you did say, nobody watches our videos. I'm
well, they're watching some of them, but if you review your analytics, Joe, they may or may not be finishing them. So yeah, that's what we're finding.
Well, interestingly enough, this session is videoed and recorded and will be available for people to watch it. And I hope they stick it out through the entire 55 minutes or so, because there's a lot of great stuff in here. And again, I want to thank you all, and Rich, particularly you, for moderating the panel, for your contributions. It really is what makes the association an association. You know, I said this last week or two ago at the board meeting. The association is not a building on K Street in Washington, D.C. The Direct Selling Association is all of you and all of the people who are watching and participating in the discussion. So hopefully we'll see you all again soon. We will have another upcoming series of webinars on taxes and payments, and finance and payments, I should say.
Ooh, how exciting.
It will be, and you're going to watch every single second of it, Rich. So I hope that you'll pay attention to it and take something away from that. So look for more information on that. See you all now. Take care, and good business. For those of you in Florida, stay safe.